Welcome back, everybody, to the Way of the Bodhisattva study. We are continuing in chapter 2, the chapter on confession, and now we are moving into part of the offering that a lot of people probably find kind of unusual, because it's what we're doing is we're offering a spa day to the Buddhas. But you'll find that if you try this out as a visualized practice, it's actually extremely potent because it's very visually easy to grasp, and it also engages your feelings of openness and generosity very strongly. So let's just get into it and we'll work with it, okay? So we're starting on verse 10 in chapter 2. A bathing chamber, excellently fragrant, with even floors of crystal, radiant and clear, and graceful pillars, shimmering with gems, all hung about with gleaming canopies of pearls. So first we're imagining the most beautiful spa in the clouds you've ever imagined. Made of crystal, perfect, no flaws anywhere, made of gemstones, just absolutely gorgeous. So just grasp just for a moment what that might look like. Verse 11. There the blissful Buddhas and their heirs, all bathed with many precious vase, a brim with and delightful, a brim with water fragrant and delightful, all to frequent strains of melody and song. So now we're imagining that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, so we can think of the 8 main Bodhisattvas and the Buddha, and we can imagine them, kind of in their traditional Indian monastic dress. And then they're getting into the hot tubs, to the spas. And we can have emanations of beautiful men and women who work at the spa, who now bathe and these can come out of your heart and offer this royal bath. I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's Spirited Away, right? They have the bathhouse for all the spirits. They come to there and they get the relaxing spirit and they all work in the bathhouse. This is what we're going for. So we're offering this to the Buddha, and you can imagine it just as much as you would love this kind of spa day, give this spa day to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Verse 12, with cloths of unexampled quality, with spotless perfumed towels, I will dry them and offer splendid scented clothes, well dyed and surpassing excellence. With different garments, light and supple, and 100 beautiful adornments, I will grace sublime Samantabhadra, Manjughosha, and Avalokiteshvara and their kin. So as we just get into this experience of what we might grasp for us as like one of the most pleasant experiences, right? Like to go to a hot spring or a spa and just to be waited on. Of course the Buddhas don't need this, nor do they care about this at all, but they'll receive it on our behalf if we start to give away this luxurious, relaxing experience free from the suffering of samsara to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This will build great merit. This is a fantastic way. In some ways, we do the mandala offering in the Nundro, and sometimes people have a hard time getting their head around that visualization of offering the universe and all that. This is very straightforward, right? We're just going to offer this amazing spa experience with the best cloths and robes and perfumed water and music playing in the background. For the time when this was written, this was the height of luxury. And in some ways it still is, which shows you how, to the human experience, to our sense of what is best, this is one of the best things we can offer. That's why visualizing this and going through this and giving this away can really help train your mind towards this devotion and faith, and also generosity and enjoying others having this experience. And as we always say, when you offer to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you offer to sentient beings automatically because they benefit all sentient beings. So this is how we can connect to this. And I just ask you to give it a shot, try it out. And one thing you can do that's a nice little trick is you can look on YouTube, and there's different ambiance videos. You can find they're like an hour long or 2 hours long sometimes, and there's ones of different pools and mansions and all this with nice music, and that can support your visualization. So I encourage you to just play around with this. We have to use modern technology to enhance our practice, and that's one thing you can really use. There's those shots of like drones going over flower gardens, big beautiful fields, amazing parts of nature. You can watch those and imagine giving that to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So that's a nice way you can integrate your use of technology into a practice. So when you're scrolling through your phone and you see something beautiful, you can take a moment and just flash the offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and now you're accumulating merit and purifying obscurations through your doom scroll. So how cool is that? So this is giving us really amazing ways to access merit for people who don't have a lot to offer. with sumptuous fragrance, which pervades 1,000,000,000 worlds, I will anoint the bodies of the mighty sages, gleaming bright like burnished gold and refined and cleansed. And, there's this tradition of like cleansing statues or pouring water or milk over them or gold. So it's similar to that. We're going to have these emanated gods and goddesses, putting oil on the bodies of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And you can do it, for Mother Tara and however you want to do it, right? And you can imagine their bodies getting anointed with oil and put a fragrance on them in amazing robes. All of this is a way of really engaging in profound merit building. So play around with it. I know it can be a little odd because it's kind of like outside of our usual experience, but I've done this enough to know that there's real magic in this. And you'll only be able to know if you try it. Because, like I said, I think that this experience that he's describing is very archetypal of what our most wanted experience is, this kind of supreme leisure, right? So this is what we're offering to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And so just try it out and see how it feels. Verse 15, I place before the mighty sages perfect objects of my worship, glorious flowers like lotus and mandarava, the upala and other fragrant blossoms, worked and twined with lovely scented garlands. I will offer swelling clouds of frankincense, whose ambient perfume ravishes the mind, and various foods and every kind of drink, and all delicacy worthy of the gods. I will offer precious lamps, arranged in rows on lotuses of gold, a carpet of sweet flowers scattering upon the level incense-sprinkled ground. To those whose very nature is compassion, I will give vast palaces, resounding with fair praise, all decked with the precious pearls and beatus pendant gems, gleaming jewels that deck the amplitude of space. So, when you do the 7 offering bowls traditionally, a lot of people don't know this, but the origin of this comes from Indian hospitality. When you would bring in a guest, you would first offer them water to drink because India is very hot. And then you would wash their feet because India can be very dusty. And everybody used to, wear sandals instead of shoes. And so your feet would be dirty. So to have your feet get cleaned was a wonderful experience. And then you would offer flowers and incense and light, candles and music. And you would offer dinner and a feast, right? So these are the offerings that we're doing on our bowls every day. The reason we're doing those are symbols of these experiences. And you can see now how this spa experience for the Buddhas is just the most luxurious version of that you can imagine. So that's what we're going for here. And this, if you have an altar practice, this can really amplify it so much because you'll really know what you're doing when you do that. And when you start to set up your altar, you're like, okay, now I'm offering the Buddha some water to drink. And you can imagine like a beautiful crystal chalices of perfectly clean spring water. And then you can bring in the crystal bowls to wash their feet with amazing silk cloths. And then you can imagine the flowers and the incense and the light. And then you can imagine the perfume on their body. And then you can offering dinner. And then you can play some music for them. And you can see this experience. And now you know why you're doing those offerings and what they're really about. So maybe now in the modern world, we don't have quite the same hospitality ritual, but I think we can all relate to the beauty and universal enjoyment of a ritual like this. And now it'll make so much more sense when you get into the offering goddesses and these different things, especially in the Vajrayana, where these different offerings also connect to our different sense organs and to our different sense objects and to the different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This all comes together. So this is a preliminary for that without really understanding it, you won't fully understand what you're doing in those visualization practices. So spend some time working with this. Just read it and allow it to come to you naturally and enjoy the experience. And I think you'll find that not only is it quite an excellent practice, it also is an enjoyable thing to do. So until our next time, give us a shot, try it for yourself and see how it goes. And let me know in the comments if it worked for you. And we'll see you next time.